Joining us now, Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. He serves on both the Foreign Relations and Judiciary Committees. Senator, good morning. So you questioned Kash Patel in that hearing yesterday on whether he works for the American people or for the White House. Let's take a look at that exchange.
Who does the director of the FBI work for, Mr. Patel?
Senator, thank you for that question. The immediate report for the director of the FBI is into the Office of the Deputy Attorney General. Then that report is taken into the Office of the Attorney General and ultimately the White House and the chain of command there.
So the FBI works for the White House?
No, the FBI is a member of the Department of Justice and has been the long-standing application.
And who does the Department of Justice work for?
They're in the executive branch, as all members do at the White House.
Attorney General Bondi gave a different answer when I asked her the same question, that they work for the Constitution and the American people.
So, Senator, take us inside that room, your assessment for people who may have just seen a couple of sound bites, your assessment of Kash Patel's performance, and many have said it was a performance because so much of what he said in that room contradicts everything he's said for many years now.
Well, there was a stark difference between years of public statements in his book, Government Gangsters, on many podcasts and speeches and rallies where Kash Patel talked openly, frequently about retribution against the political opponents of President Trump, and his testimony yesterday. I focused on two core questions that I thought had some chance of troubling Republicans if they were listening on the committee. One was, who would you work for as director of the FBI? And the other was, if given an illegal or unconstitutional order, would you be willing to disobey it and to resign if pressed? I asked that exact same question of Chris Wray. He answered appropriately that he would resign rather than carry out any illegal order. And on the question you just played, who would you work for? He answered who you report to. And even when pressed and given a chance to answer differently a second time, he kept focusing on the FBI director works through the DOJ for the president. That's the core issue here. The FBI needs to be politically independent. And I asked him several different ways over 2 rounds. Would you not obey an order if directed by President Trump, either to stop an investigation into someone connected to him or in the White House, or refuse to open an investigation if it was unfounded or unethical or unconstitutional? I was not at all reassured by Kash Patel's answers yesterday. I will vote against him for FBI director, but I thought it was important to focus in a calm, clear way on the questions that might concern Republicans. And frankly, I'm not persuaded that they were listening to what was being said yesterday and paying attention to the very troubling long record Mr. Patel has of partisan statements that suggest a focus on retribution.
Yeah, it doesn't look like very many Republicans are interested in voting no on him. A lot has been happening this week. And then, of course, we've had the plane crash as well. One thing that has got perhaps a little bit less attention that I know that you've been focused on is the total freeze on U.S. foreign assistance. Right. I've been here. My daughter is a data scientist. She works in malaria research. Her job has been cut. Malaria is actually one of the things that Senator Rubio stood up in his confirmation hearing and said was very beneficial to the United States. What's the impact? But I'm more interested in what is the impact on the United States of cutting these aid programs around the world, even if it is only for 90 days. I mean, let's say it's all reinstituted in 90 days. What's the damage that's been done to America's, not just reputation, but national security here?
So 3 things on that, if I could. We had a hearing on foreign relations yesterday about China and the U.S. competition globally with China for the hearts and minds, the allegiance, the engagement of people around the world.
Where China is doing very well.
China is advancing rapidly in their engagement in Africa, in the Caribbean, in Central and South America, in Southeast Asia. And part of the point of our being a reliable partner, decades of partnership in global public health, in development, is so that we can say we are a reliable partner. Freezing all of these programs for 3 months means many of them will never come back. Folks who get laid off for 90 days are going to...
Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut. He's the ranking member on the House Intelligence Committee, which, of course, works closely with the Director of National Intelligence. Congressman, good to see you this morning. So what's your take on Tulsi Gabbard's confirmation hearing? Were any of your concerns alleviated?
Well, different context, right? With the crash of this airliner, America is being reminded that the leadership of federal agencies really matters. We had an election where I can't tell you the number of MAGA voters who said, well, I just want to upset the apple cart. We want to start from scratch. And, last week, Americans got a real demonstration of how life-saving things like the FAA, and by the way, the budget disaster, the failure to disperse federal funds, which is hurting homeless organizations, et cetera. My point is that Americans have gotten a real reminder that leadership at these agencies really, really matters. And neither Kash Patel nor Tulsi Gabbard were ever remotely qualified to occupy the very sensitive roles that they're being asked to occupy. But, Tulsi stumbled through her hearing yesterday, having changed her position on FISA, having sort of changed her position on Snowden. And, as somebody who spends a lot of time around the Intelligence Committee, if you're willing to change everything you believe in to get that job, are you going to be willing to tell the president the truth if that may cost you your job? And of course, as you know, that's at the core of what an intelligence leader must be willing to do, to speak truth to power. And I don't see anything about Tulsi Gabbard that suggests that she's got the center of gravity to do so.
We reported just several hours ago that a number of Republican senators after the hearing said actually they had more concerns, strongly hinting they had more concerns about Gabbard's ability to do the job. And
is highly likely a materially engineered bioweapon. I made sure I put in the highly likely. Did you say Lyme disease is a highly likely militarily engineered bioweapon?
I probably did say that.
To get confirmed on the floor, nominees can only lose 3 Republican senators if all Democrats oppose their confirmation. My panel is back. Brad Todd, can you just give us the line on the Senate GOP right now in terms of these nominees? I know Tom Cotton came out and was supportive of Tulsi Gabbard ahead of the hearing, which seemed noteworthy. There also seems to be some interaction between, if Tulsi gets through, then Kennedy has more issues. What is your understanding of the landscape right now?
Well, that's one of those vibe things. Most presidents lose 1 or 2, but nobody loses more than 1 or more than 2 nominees. Matt Gaetz is already gone. So there is some sense that history dictates that Trump won't lose more than 2. I don't know if that bears any resemblance to vote counting. Okay. I think Tulsi Gabbard's hearing was a little rough. I mean, you have to be able to say Edward Snowden's a traitor to win over the hawks in a hawk party. I think that was a mistake on her part. I think RFK Jr.'s hearing, to me, was the most entertaining, but it was a big mistake by Democrats. Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders made him more confirmable. There's nobody in the Republicans dislike more than Elizabeth Warren, and it's for all the right reasons. But she should have gone with RFK and said, I agree with you on abortion. I agree with you on affirmative action. I agree with you on guns. In fact, I like you more than any nominee Donald Trump ever has. If she wanted to sink him, she should have hugged him. But she doesn't get that. She wants to make sound bites for the left, and I know that, and that's what it's all theater for her. I thought that made that hearing a circus, entertaining, but it maybe strengthened RFK.
Let me play for you one moment, Brad, from Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, who's a physician and who is probably the most closely watched Republican on the RFK nomination. Let's take a look.
Will you reassure mothers unequivocally and without qualification that the measles and hepatitis B vaccines do not cause autism?
Senator, I am not going into the agency with any.
Well, that's kind of a yes or no question, because because the data is there, and that's kind of a yes or no. And I don't mean to cut you off, but that really is a yes or no.
If the data is there, I will absolutely do that.
Is Cassidy going to vote no? And are there more with him?
It's possible. It's possible. I think there are probably 10 to 15 Republicans who have real qualms with RFK Jr. Most of them have qualms because of his ideology. He's been a liberal Democrat for most of his career. He's closer to Elizabeth Warren than he is to Bill Cassidy on ideological questions. I don't know. I think Donald, he has a following. He was additive in the campaign. He brought voters to Donald Trump. People are trying to be respectful of that, but they do have qualms about him.
I did not think RFK Jr. would be in any trouble when this week started. I was really struck by Cassidy's questioning in this. I do think before this week there was this possibility that some Democrats might actually vote for him, and maybe that still will be the case. I don't know. I was much more interested, I think, in the Tulsi Gabbard hearing. I think there are a lot of indication that from that hearing and from the reaction to her answers that there are Republicans. Susan Collins and Todd Young are the ones everybody's watching. I think we should watch what their words, what they say. They're on that committee. If they don't vote for her, it doesn't get out of committee. I don't think it goes to the floor. John Thune has to have a conversation with President Trump after that. If she falls in committee.
I think overall the Democrats seemed much more organized this week in their lines of questioning than they did when Hegseth first came up. And I thought that RFK really just fumbled his answers, both with Republicans and Democrats. And look, I think everybody can agree that our health care is in crisis. There are a lot of problems that need to be fixed. I just don't think the Democrats, and it clearly seems that some Republicans think that he is the one to fix it. And it is scary that the person who is out there.
Readers before citing ABC News and Meta recent settlements with Trump, as well as firm out mulling statements in his law against CBC News. She also lumped in tech billionaires and Trump Elon Musk, pointing to his lawsuit against far-left advocacy group Media Matters. Notably, Musk signed suing CNN for defamation earlier this week after Rampel, a CNN commentators, accused him of making a Sikh Hail gesture at Trump's inauguration rally. Before Rampel took such a stanch position in favor of free speech, she backed effort by tech giants to censor COVID-related misinformation. Misinformation has flourished on Facebook and other sites of social media.